All right, so we're live. Yes, we are. It is Monday, July 6th. Happy Monday. This is Second Cup of Coffee.
Hello. Hi.
There we go. Now that's better. This
Yay.
is Second Cup of Coffee.
It's Second Cup of Coffee.
I'm Jason.
I'm Pili.
And we are getting ourselves ready. So you're here a little bit beforehand. We were putting things together, dealing with everything that you usually do on a day that is a Monday when things are going left and right. But everything's awesome. We had a super weekend.
We had an amazing weekend. Weekend.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Are you ready?
I'm still getting ready.
Honestly,
the live started and I wasn't ready. And now I'm ready.
Well,
hi, everyone.
That's Yay. A good, there we go. Start again. Good. Okay, so we'll start this again. This is Second Cup of Coffee. Here we are. Take 3, 7, 14, whatever's the case. But we're here. Happy Monday. I'm Jason. Pili's drinking. That's Pili. This is Second Cup of Coffee. So, awesome weekend.
It was an amazing weekend.
Yeah.
What did we do this weekend?
Wow. So, 4th of July, we were at my brother's. The kids went nuts swimming. And then well, not you, but I slept outside.
Yes.
Not because of anything I did. Well, maybe. No. But I got the luxury. Yes.
They asked you.
The kids have been begging me to sleep in the backyard in a tent. So, yes, the two of them and I slept outside in the back. Mm-hmm. And that did pretty good. We slept all night and we kind of slept sideways and everything else that happened right there. And then, and then 5:30 a.m. came in and then we rolled inside and they slept till which seemed like a decade.
Probably until like 9.
Yeah, probably like 9. But yeah, it was awesome. It was a ton of fun. Some of the neighbors were doing little fireworks, and so the kids loved them.
Action.
Right. And so our sparklers were nothing, right? So the kids were like, sparklers, but there's Roman candles. Why are we going to do this? But no, it was great. And we put the most into it yesterday. They got some more swimming in, and they were tired. I mean, they were tired. So what am I missing?
I don't think you're missing anything. We just had a really, really great weekend filled with family, filled with fireworks. I mean, so much fun, so many F's. Family, fun, fireworks. And we just got together and just celebrated our freedom, our ability to be together as a family now. We spent so many months away from family, just reaching out and touching family by phone. So just having this moment to be grateful for the moments that we get to have.
Yeah. And you know, it's one of the great things about parenthood is that you get to make sure that you're really thinking about the moments, right? Because you get asked the questions. So what is July 4th? Why are we having this day? What is independence, right? So what is freedom? And just putting it in context for the kids so they can give some thought, even at their age, right? So 5 and 3, the ones he's running around chasing the dog, but the 5 and 3, they're at least the 5-year-old, he's almost 6. He's asking the question. He's trying to understand, you know, what is the word independence? What does that mean? What does freedom mean? And, you know, Pili gave a context, and the context was more that, you know, you want to go out and go swimming, you know, that's something we can do. You want to just get up and we can drive and go over to the store. That's something we can do. We have the ability where we've now been giving the privilege through other people's actions to be able to have a say and have a cause where we can get up and do things without having limitations set upon them.
Yep. And I also put out in a couple of groups that I'm a part of, like, what does freedom really mean to you? And what are you reaching for in that context? And also to give it more of an empathetic and sympathetic feel, what do you think it means to others and how does it affect them? The thought of freedom. By others, I mean a worldwide view. I mean, because as we just grow and expand on the internet and just as a world, how does that word affect us all?
So one of the other cool things that really was about this weekend is we have been growing a garden, and the
Yes.
garden is now growing itself, taking over. We have a pumpkin patch that I
Pumpkin
feel like is going to
patch.
climb up to the kids' room, but a little past that, we ate from the garden last night,
Yeah,
and
for the first time.
it's that cool feeling where you're growing things, and now just able to benefit from what you're doing. Just the
Exactly.
work is now proving and paying off, right? But that's like a lot with things. And I used to brew beer a lot, and that was one of the business we had in the past. And one of the things about that is that it's this process, and the process has to have the difficulties about it. And if you haven't ever brewed beer, I mean, the two main things that are most important in brew beering, and it has nothing to do with taste, is of course cleanliness and temperature. And if you can't conquer and master those two things, then ultimately the finished product is going to be distorted, right? And it's not going to either be properly done, or it's not going to have the true effect of what it is. Well, the same thing here, with growing a garden, it's the same thing we put into ourselves, right? So what we're doing today is going to be what we become tomorrow. It's not that we go out there and water the lawn today or water in the garden, and then there's an absolute result tomorrow. It's the same thing with beer brewing. You do something today, it may be 2-3 weeks, 2, 3, 5 months, depending on the type of beer you're brewing, before you're able to reap the reward of what you did and what you accomplished. But a lot of it goes in now, right? Because you can't see the finished product down the road, right? You can look and say, okay, I did this. I was able to do these steps today, so I think this is going to be what my outcome is going to be. But a lot with beer brewing is that things change, right? Just like we change as we evolve and as we put more into ourselves. The same beer that is brewed consistently time and time again, if you look back where that beer, if you were able to go back in time and taste that beer 10 years ago, the profile is different because grains have changed over time. They've adapted over time. So one of the things about, Budweiser's and the Coors Light, they get a rap for being a cheap beer. But the one thing that they do that is just uncanny is they have a consistency. And having that consistency day in and day out, that is the most difficult thing in anything to do. And not only in beer brewing, but in anything. So you think about how do they do it? I mean, Budweiser actually does something there where they brew so many batches because they're assuming that over these batches that they're going to have a batch that's not going to conform. But what they do is they consolidate all the batches at a point during the process. So it's basically creating accumulation of the batches and warding out any of these dissimilar tastes. You're not having one batch that's so off from it because it's all becoming one. Well, that's a lot what we're doing too, right? We're trying to do all these things within our mind, our body, our fitness, that's bringing out our true, better self in the future. But we have to try it in ways that we can make what we want ourselves to be, but we don't exactly know the recipe, right? We have an idea what it's going to be until we get that consistent thing in our day that now we know starts to do that, right? So when Budweiser was first making the beer, they may be testing and testing and testing. We used to make a Kolsch beer, and a Kolsch beer is a ale that's lagered. Basically, it's an ale that's produced but then lagered it's got flavor, but then it's cold conditioned for a smooth finish. The thing with that is that it's such a delicate beer that the temperature profile is so important. So we finally were able to get what we wanted perfect, right? Get the recipe down, but that doesn't mean that you win, right? Because the next time that we brewed that beer, it was a failure, right? Because we went back and something wasn't right. So it's the consistency of doing things day in and day after day that gives you that big result. It's not hey, we did it one time, that's good enough. It's okay, can you repeat the process? Can you come forward, be a great family person, great business owner, great with your health? Can you do that consistently?
I'm loving everything that you're saying. It's being consistent and jumping into, say, business or real estate. There is a way to do it. I mean, what's the quote that Tony Robbins says? Look at the successful people. Success leaves clues. So look at those people that have done it before you. Look at them and see how they do it and find what their recipe is. Take it as your own, but then discover your own recipe, discover your own ways of doing things, and then repeat it. And if it's repeatable, for instance, Jason and I closed on our first building the sale of our first building back in December. So we took the whole multifamily plan full circle, and now we're going to repeat it. But we figured out the recipe. We took it full circle from acquisition to disposition. We have very, very happy investors in between. Now we are going to repeat that process with every single building. So that takes everything that Jason's saying into a business context, into a real estate context. So no matter if you're into multifamily, if you're into flipping, wholesaling, if you're a realtor, you find your recipe and you adapt it as needed. But the thing is, you just repeat, and repeat.
So, and I'll carry forward on the beer brewing theme, is that when we went to market, we, because of really, I guess I'll say scarcity or inability, right? We just did kegs. Basically, we put the beer into a keg, and that can wield anywhere between 105 to 120 pints, depending on how well the bar pours the beer. But the moral of the story is, we went out and we targeted one space, right? Because we didn't have enough to go around. We didn't have enough of a customer base. We wanted to master that one thing. And our thought process would be, we're in New York City, there's a bar every 20 feet. And if we can get in that bar, the first thing you see is this tap handle that stands out in front of your face when you come in. Sometimes people will go to package and bottles and cans. But what happens is, if you go into a bar, do you see the bottles and cans right up in your face? No, they're usually hidden down in the cooler. So unless there's a place that's going to identify it on the menu, it's going to be hard for you to stand out. So we went there and we wanted to be on taps where there was only 4 to 6 taps, so we could stand out, right? Then we had a tap handle that could be, it's actually part of it's right back here. The kids ask me what it is all the time. We want to have something that stands out. And this to us stood out about, New York City construction, right? You'd see these orange and white cones everywhere signifying construction. So we want to have something like this that really stood out and really captured the character. And just the tenant buildings all had these water towers on it that really fit with our theme of the greater good. But the more of my story is, so we had this one thing, but you would go into places and they would constantly try and change our course, right? They would constantly say, oh, if you just had 1 6 keg, 6 stills, we'd bring in, oh, hey, how about you do cans, and then, or bottles, or if you're doing 12-ounce cans, why don't you do 22-ounce cans, and then we'll carry you. Everybody was trying to change our mode. And that's a lot about today too. There's so many things that are around us. They're constantly pulling at us, trying to change what our vision is, right? And so if we were to listen to that, we would be trying to meet everyone, but again, meeting no one, right? Because our message would be clear. So is Alphabet City Brewing Company, is this, what is it, right? Because it's kind of a little bit everywhere, but we haven't conquered any path. And that's why it's so important to give time to what you're doing, give time for the plan to evolve before you grow in, right? Because if we get our message in there and we get our message out, then it's easier for us to go back in, because people now know us. And now we can add on another layer, another beer. We only did 1 beer to start, right? Sometimes you can't, you try to provide so much in so many different capacities that people can't clearly think who you are, can't clearly identify what you do. And if you have a company right now, or you have a brand, if you can't size up on an elevator what you are and what you stand for and what you do, right? Just in a sentence, like, what do you do, right? Then you pretty much everybody else is going to be confused too. And you have to think about it, like, what is it that you do? Because if you can't tell that to someone and it's confusing, then they're not going to be able to help you. I had a talk, and we'll call it person, but I had a talk with a real estate investor the other day, and it was like 15 minutes into the conversation, I just had to stop them, because I again, had no clue where we were going, talking about all these things they wanted to do, but nothing was connecting. It was all over the place. We're starting, charities, and then buying buildings that were Class A. We're going to be, they were going to do this, and then buying these buildings that were non-performing. And I didn't know why we were on the phone. They had asked for a call. We got on the call with them, but I was 15 minutes in the call and still had no clue where we were going with the call, because there was no direct message and no direct route. And that becomes a lot with our businesses, right? The business changes and changes and changes, because each day we see something and we think, okay, maybe let's try that, or we'll change directions, but we haven't really built our foundation, right? So you have to find that foundation. So when we started with that 1 beer, we really grew, and it was good for us to do that, because it allowed us to get known for what we did, right? Just that one product. And then as you grow, it allows you to add on other core products that fit with what that brand is, or if we had to adapt it. But it also gives you the ability to work out the kinks, right? If something breaks in the process and we're trying to do this across 20 different products and things are broken, that's a lot harder to do at first than if you just have one product that you're trying to master as you're trying to grow and scale.
And it's all about focus.
All about focus.
And what you're basically saying to me, to everyone that's here, is to have ultimate focus. Before I jump into focus, we're at the 15-minute mark. If you are exercising and you're doing it for half an hour, and if you're running, come on back. If you're going to go for another 15 minutes, good for you. Awesomeness. So focus. Let's dive into our fitness.
Perfect.
Let's dive into our fitness. So today I went for a 3-mile run and I did my 22 push-ups.
That's awesome. So yeah, did my run this morning and my 22 push-ups. Was it yesterday? I had a good workout where ran in the morning and then I did a second workout. Was that right? Was that yesterday?
I think it was.
Yeah, where I actually did a combo of a 5-minute bike, 25 push-ups, 25 squats, 25 sit-ups, 10 burpees, 4 times. So for the time, I would just repeat that to get back in the bike and repeat that. And you can get that consistency, right, where it keeps you moving. I think sometimes we get complacent or bored with our workouts, and I hear that a lot, that just bored to do it.
With the consistency.
Yeah, but again, like if you do something that keeps you moving, it will just be done, right? And I'm working on figuring out some of the soreness in my body lately and identifying how to correct that just with some of the workouts we're doing. So we're figuring out what's the step and just continuing to look at my process and what have I changed that's creating that, and that's what we're building on. So going forward.
Well, going forward, I'm getting you to do more yoga and more stretching.
That's true.
And we're working on me to get more running and more exercises in. So I did do a longer run yesterday. I went for 5 miles. I've been going into the 3 to 4 mile range. So I'm going to start upping that to like 5 to 6 miles, 6 to 7 miles.
That's what it was. Because yesterday I did that workout first and I ran 10 miles yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah. So because it was hot, it was 95 degrees, 90 something degrees yesterday. So, and those are good days to test yourself, but you also want to understand your limitations so you can do this in a way that's going to make sense for you.
Yes. Always be safe. I'm not saying if you're not a runner, if you don't understand the heat and your body's response to it, be safe when you go out there. I took a small water bottle with me. I ran as far and as fast as I could, but I paced myself during those 5 miles. There was times when I just walked really fast. So I did my 5 miles, came home, and we just had an amazing afternoon with the kids. So
tomorrow, exciting show. We're going to be talking about age, what age means, what age does. We're excited for this week. Had a lot of great podcasts out. So Dylan Marma and Ekaterina Stepanova.
Yes.
I said it correctly. I think I'm sorry if I said your last name correctly. Katerina, but they got an awesome story. They're out there doing a lot on the investment management side for multifamily. Have a 5-step process they've put out for raising capital. But check out that podcast today. It's getting a ton of great feedback. So make sure you're going over to the Jason and Pili Project, checking out the podcast. A ton of great stuff happening there. And again, thank you.
Thank you so much. And if you like what you see, please hit subscribe, follow us, rate and review if you're following us on our podcast. It does us a lot of good if you do. That would be amazing and awesome.
All right. We will see you tomorrow.
Thank you.